When the slide was over, after he received the real call that he was finally selected in the NFL draft on day 3, Shedeur Sanders took a plunge. How fitting. Sanders, chosen by the Cleveland Browns with the 6th pick of the 5th round on Saturday, 144th overall, dove into the swimming pool at his famous father's house after experiencing the most dramatic plunge in NFL draft history, and it was all joy. "I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity, throughout everything," the former Colorado quarterback said during a conference call with the Cleveland media. "I don't ever focus on the negative or even think about the negative, because the positive happened so fast." NFL Draft Hub. Live NFL Draft News. So there. Sanders, pegged as a likely first-round pick when the draft began on Thursday night, took the high road in assessing the ebb and flow of his draft experience. If he is bitter about tumbling so far in the draft, and igniting so much debate to dominate the coverage of the event, as quarterbacks including Jackson Dart, Tyler Shaw and Jalen Milroe were picked ahead of him, he certainly didn't put out that vibe. Instead, he exhibited a glimpse of just how equipped he may be to handle adversity, with more likely coming as he tries to make it in the NFL. "Nothing really affected me the last couple of days," Sanders insisted. "It's just understanding faith and that God really has me." Even the shameful prank phone call that he received during the draft, from some kid pretending to be New Orleans Saints GM Mickey Loomis with word that he was on the verge of being selected, seemed to roll off Sanders. "Of course, I felt like it was a childish act," he said. "Everybody does childish things, here and there." On Thursday night, when his draft night party fizzled, Sanders told supporters that being bypassed in the first round should not have happened under any circumstance. Yet as the draft unfolded and one team after another passed on him multiple times, the son of Hall of Famer Deion Sanders apparently refused to wallow in any sort of self-pity. That's healthy. There's no reason to expend much energy on breaking down his draft slide. Not now. Now it's a matter of focusing on what he can control, like being prepared to absorb Coach Kevin Stefanski's offense, while others debate exactly why so many teams in a quarterback-needy league wanted no parts of a highly productive quarterback who last season passed for more than 4,000 yards and 37 touchdowns, while leading the NCAA with a 74% completion rate. Sanders was the 6th quarterback drafted, and second one chosen by the Browns, who picked Dillon Gabriel from Oregon with a 3rd-round pick. Count me in the crowd who suspect that Sanders' plunge in the draft was hardly about football. Not when reports that knocked Sanders was arrogant intensified for weeks, and rumblings about subpar interviews with NFL teams snowballed. Of course, the decisions that each team makes in these cases, the New York Giants, who traded back into the first round to draft Dart from Ole Miss with the 25th pick, were reportedly split on their bottom-line assessment of Sanders, is their prerogative. In time, there will be fodder for more debate about whether the same decision-makers who banked on since-discarded quarterback Daniel Jones got it right this time or blew it again. We'll see. Still, the arrogant narrative was particularly sensitive as it raised legitimate questions, especially on social media, about culture and race. Baker Mayfield, who has sparkled in his revival with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, wasn't too arrogant that it prevented the Browns from choosing him number 1 overall in 2018, 4 years after Cleveland took Johnny Manziel, another white quarterback cast as high-strung with the 22nd pick overall. Of course, it's only conjecture to say that teams passed on Sanders because he rolls with gaudy jewelry, and even checked his designer watch during TD celebrations in the midst of games. No, Sanders doesn't have any off-the-field conduct issues that NFL teams so often overlook or justify when it comes to certain talents, black or white. I'm not buying the theory that Shedeur's slide was somehow part of a collective effort to send a message to Deion. And in a league with increasing media exposure, and with Hard Knocks shows part of the landscape with cameras behind the scenes, the theory that Sanders would generate too much attention as a backup quarterback doesn't wash, either. It was interesting, though, to take stock of what Browns GM Andrew Berry said about passing on Sanders after day 2 of the draft. "Fit comes into play," Berry said. The next day, Berry drafted Sanders, although by the looks of the video from the Browns' war room, the GM's body language projected as the least enthused in the room. Nonetheless, Sanders is no ordinary 5th-round rookie as he lands with a franchise that has struggled for decades to secure its long-term answer at quarterback. He'll join a quarterback room led by aging vet Joe Flacco and including former Pittsburgh Steelers first-rounder Kenny Pickett along with Gabriel. At least that's a shot, and a decent opportunity to ultimately compete for the job. The picture doesn't include Deshaun Watson, who is rehabbing from a torn Achilles tendon on top of the alleged sexual assault scandal that derailed his career. Said Barry, "You have to come in and work and you have to come in and compete." That's the message. Nothing's given. It really doesn't matter where you were picked, it's what you do from that point forward. Because that's the reality for all the guys we selected this weekend.